is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Oh, here we are, JJ Wang. We are about halfway through June. Happy Father's Day to you, my friend.
Happy Father's Day to you.
Yep, or as if you don't know by now, we record on Sundays. You missed about a 15-minute precursor about pull-ups we could have made part of the show, but last week we ran too long, so we probably shouldn't throw in pull-ups to add into our guys episode. A little bit of news going on as we jump in. We're going to jump right into it. You know what? I'm a slacker. I've usually been on top of stuff, but I forgot to make the music for this week. I got to get on that this week. I apologize, Courier Nation. There won't be any Top Guys music. Maybe I'll have something for the closeout next week. But it's just been a long week. It took me 3 days to pack up my classroom, and I have 95 boxes of stuff just from teaching drama for 13 years and 4 van loads of stools. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that has nothing. That has to do with me being a slacker. I had the site up, started to do some stuff. I got my rankings almost ready for draft rankings, and
maybe we can go over those next week. See what your rankings are.
I don't want to promise they're ready yet, but I'm working on them. Like this year, I'm doing them manually. Usually, I'll take and move things around. This year, I'm going team by team and doing it old school and seeing how they come out different as I look into them. So sometimes, because usually you can get a preset like thing, and then I would move my guys where I like them. This year, I went straight up. And I like it better that way, I think. My dynasties are done, so if you want to see dynasty rankings, they're on fantasycouriers.com right now. I didn't do kickers or defense because if you're doing kickers or defense, you got a terrible commissioner like JJ Wang. But oh, you're not commissioning anymore. So
that's true.
But. Big news this week. Trevor Lawrence got the bag of cash. 5 years, $275 million. I think it's a 142 guaranteed, $55 million a year. That ties in with Joe Burrow, highest quarterback in the league. Trevor Lawrence, which is he? What, the number 12 quarterback in fantasy?
I think Trevor Lawrence flirts with top 10 just because it's Trevor Lawrence.
My redraft right now.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily saying he deserves the $55 million, but in the landscape of today's NFL, it's normal. He's going to get $55 million, and the next guy's going to get $55 million, and it's.
Oh, you know who the next guy is? You're not going to like it.
I don't like any of them getting that much money, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like as a teacher, we have like hard salaries. So it's like you go up a ladder for what I get every year. So I know that next year, unless there's a cost of living increase, that's what I get. It'd be interesting if the NFL if like sports ever said, "Hey, you're a quarterback, you do this, you get like I want incentive laden contracts where he's 42 for being alive. It screws the team."
They tried that with the rookie draft. That's how the rookie pay scale used to be, and it didn't work out. So. The NFL would never go because there's just too much money being tossed around. These guys are so full of themselves that they feel like they deserve more money, even though they ain't necessarily proved that they deserve that much money.
Yes, yeah. Maybe it's incentives, but then again, the owners would screw that over by saying, "Okay, you're 3 yards shy. We're pull him out of the game." That happened before.
Yeah, that would definitely happen. But the incentive, there's always incentives in most. There's incentives in most contracts.
Unless you're Deshaun Watson.
But like I said, like when they sign their contract, these guys aren't going to go for incentive because you just never know what's going to happen. You don't want to base your whole contract on incentive. Incentive, especially being football when you can easily get injured first game of the season and your career's over and you get no money or something, something crazy like that.
So QB1, $55 million a year. Wide receiver 2, $22.8 million a year on franchise tag for Mr. T. Higgins. I was shocked. He gave in a little quicker than I thought he might, but maybe he knows that will help. $22 million. Who's going to balk at that to a point when knowing he's young and he's a receiver and next contract will be money, right?
He's got to play. He's going to play, right? So either you just continue to hold out and make it harder on your team. You make it harder on yourself by not being at camp. If you wait too long, Nick Bosa said this last year. He waited till the last minute to sign and come in, and he was just never right for the whole season.
Yeah.
And T. Higgins wants to get paid. T. Higgins is going to have to be right for the whole season. He has to start from week 1 and prove that, hey, I am this guy, for next year for that next team that wants to sign him. So I feel like the earlier he gets in there, and maybe not want to sign that contract, but it's $22 million. It's not like they're paying you chump change. It's $22 million, and you're the second receiver on your team. Like, you're the second best receiver on your team. So you can't necessarily want, top receiver money if you're not even the top receiver on your team.
Well, and that leads me to think, is T. Higgins a wide receiver 1 next year, or is he, what do you see him, like, we only know him, he was the one there for that 1 year and then Chase, but is he a wide receiver 1?
I mean, I think T. Higgins is like Michael Pittman. I think T. Higgins is in the Michael Pittman range where I think they can flirt with wide receiver 1 numbers. I think they can, be like get up to like number 8, maybe number 9, somewhere in that range, but I don't see him being any more than that. But I think if he goes to a team and he's the guy, I think he can flirt with top 12. I think he can flirt with top 12 numbers.
Okay. I'm up to the New York Giants alphabetically. T. Higgins is setting around about like late teens is where I'm looking at him, and that's.
I think maybe this year that might be right. Maybe that 15 to 20 range is probably where T. Higgins belongs. But again, he's playing alongside Jamar Chase. Now, we have seen they do throw a lot. So, Joe Burrow is a legit quarterback. So there is a possibility where both of them can be top 12 receivers. It happens. Seems like it happens one team every year. It kind of happens with. I think they're definitely in the hunt for that kind of thing.
Yeah, before we go to our top guys, T. Higgins, I'm going to give you some names. Who would you rather have, T. Higgins or redraft? We're thinking redraft for now because that's what we're sort of heading into in the next level. T. Higgins or Devontae Adams?
I think I might go Devontae Adams one more year.
Pittman?
Pittman's my guy. I'm definitely going Pittman.
Waddle?
I think that's a little close. Especially with the way Waddle played last year. So, you're looking at 1,100 yards. If Waddle gets 1,100 yards, I think Higgins is easily a 1,100-yard wide receiver. But I think T. Higgins might have a little more touchdown upside. Because, just being that bigger type receiver. I think the catch – I feel like
I know what you say.
I think it might go Olave there just being because he is the number 1 guy for his team.
Sorry, any more on Waddle there? Sorry, I jumped in front of you.
I'm just saying Waddle's more of like the receptions type receiver, so he'll get his points for reception. I think T. Higgins is more of the touchdown type guy. But I think at the end of the season, it's kind of even.
I think Devonta Smith might fall into this bunch. Smith.
I think Devonta Smith falls into this bunch just because with AJ Brown on the other side, I don't think he's not the clear cut number 1. I love me some Devonta Smith. But I think his ceiling is still a little capped. I don't think the Eagles are as good as a passing team in the future as they have been in the past, if that makes sense. I think Jalen Hurts kind of falls a little bit.
I haven't got to Philly yet, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put him because I think there is some fall. Let me phrase that. If the Eagles do what they should do, Jalen Hurts will be worse for fantasy, but the Eagles will be better because they'll wear out Saquon Barkley. And that's what will affect Jalen Hurts' fantasy value. He can still do the same passing, so that's the interesting thing. But, last 3 real quick hits. Keenan Allen.
I'll take T. Higgins.
Drake London. He's all over the place. Too high, too low, always.
That's a tough one because I love me some Drake London. They got Kirk Cousins. That's going to make a huge difference. I think Drake London being the number 1 guy ends up finishing higher than T. Higgins. But that one's real close. That's a good one.
And Tank Dell.
I think T. Higgins still has a better season than Tank Dell. Yeah.
So, really that T. Higgins is probably in a tier. We're looking at like probably Waddle, Olave, Keenan Allen, Drake London, Devontae Adams kind of bunch.
I don't think Keenan Allen's up there.
You don't? Oh, you think who's gonna get the ball over there, or just nobody?
Well, there's gonna be people that get the.
Who's gonna be wide receiver 1, or is it just gonna be all wide receiver 3s?
I think DJ Moore will ultimately be the wide receiver one. I think Keenan Allen. I mean, Keenan Allen's getting older. So I think he's still a great quarterback, but I think he becomes more of a security blanket type wide receiver. That hey, if I need to play, I know I can go to Keenan Allen, but I got this other guy that's more explosive. So I don't see. I would put DJ Moore in that spot before I would put Keenan Allen in that spot.
Intriguing. Okay, so that's some of our. Unless I missed anybody else get paid this week. Those are the two big ones, right?
That sounds about right.
I think it's I missed the other week. I dropped the ball on a whole bunch of guys. But anyway, we're gonna get into our 2 weeks of fun. This is our JJ Wang and DJ Dove's top guys. Last week we did our first 5 top guys. In no order are these yet. I had Levis, Gibbs, Andrews, London, and Dell. Speaking of those guys, and JJ Wang had Ayuk, King Henry, JSN, Zamir White, and Michael Pittman. So we're going to get into our last 5 guys. And next week, I'm going to make executive decision. Next week, we'll tell you who our top guy is. And we might later on in the offseason go, oh, wait, this guy really got hurt. I think we need a new top guy. So, JJ Wang, who are you starting with?
So I'm going to start with Trey Benson out of Arizona. Now, granted, I'm not guaranteeing Trey Benson is going to be the guy in the beginning of the season, but I think Trey Benson, not Trey Benson, but what's the guy's name?
James Conner.
James Conner. I think, of course, he's going to get the bulk of the carries, but I still think Trey Benson's peppered in. I think by the end of the season, whether it be what was his name? James Conner, whether it be just age catching up with him or injury, I think Trey Benson by the end of the season takes over for the RB1. He might not lead you in the beginning of the season, but when fantasy playoffs roll around, I think you can have Trey Benson in your lineup for him to be I don't want to say a top 12 running back, but I think by the end of the season, he's flirting with those kind of numbers because the guy's fast, the guy can make moves, and in that offense, Marvin Harrison now on the outside, Kyler Murray staying healthy all season. I think that opens up a lot. And if James Conner is doing what he's doing, I think Trey Benson can slide in just as well because he can also catch the ball as well. I think it's going to be like just a very easy transition going from Trey Benson to James Conner.
Dude, I think we've talked about him in the offseason. Is he still your rookie RB1?
I think so.
Yeah, mine too. I like the situation. I like the player. The situation for Brooks isn't great. They're doing Carolina will be better this year, but I don't know why Brooks just feels so risky, and Benson feels safe, like he's stepping into a place where he's going to be a good bet to get the ball, get their, like you're saying, the receptions, and be a safer running back.
Yeah, well, the thing with Brooks, I mean, coming off of the ACL, so you're not necessarily looking for Brooks at, in that first year after the ACL. Brooks is probably going to be next year, when he's fully healthy, he's able to get, do all the work, get a complete off season in. He's not worrying about injury from the previous season. I think that's when you might see Jonathan Brooks take that next step. But Trey Benson is not dealing with any injuries. He's in a very good offense. So that I think on an offense that's definitely defenses won't be focused on the run so much because of what Marvin Harrison will be able to do on the outside, and Kyler Murray is able to run all over the place. So I think like that RPO will work really well when it comes to Arizona.
Yeah, I still could see him being higher next year too because he'll be implanted.
I can definitely see Trey Benson being obviously the best running back out of this draft, over the next 4 years.
And speaking of running backs who have running mates, that'll be my next guy. I had to pick one, and I decided to go with Devon Achane as my Dolphin on the list. Dude is like lightning in a bottle. We mentioned over the years, like I wasn't fond of him coming into the league, and then he landed in. I don't know what other team with a system would have been better for him because of the way they're run. I just don't see him in one of those like Pittsburgh. I don't think he would have fit in well there, like because they're going to run over you, and he's not going to run over you. That's why he's not going to get a gajillion touches. I mean, he only had 103 attempts last year for 800 yards, so that's 7.8 yards. I mean, he had some rocket yards. I mean, the fear of him is injury. but he's put on not a lot of weight, but a little bit of weight. He's going to put on NFL muscle like all these guys do. So he still is. You don't want him to get shellacked up the middle. And I envision him having more than 27 receptions this year because that's going to be his role. And he's got two other capable backs behind him. I think Wright's not going to affect Achane too much. Mostert's going to be the one that hits the effect of that. And Wright might not even be useful to next year. If Mostert has lots of gas in the tank. So having those two running backs keeping him fresh legs, he's just going to pick up where he left off. And I'm excited. Every time he touches the ball, I get excited.
Well, so when you say picks up where he left off, is he going to pick up where he left off before he got injured or after he got injured? Because there was obviously a decline in play. Now, I want to like Achane, but I also know that he's not, according to the history of the NFL, as an RB1, which is where he's not going to average 7.5 yards a carry.
No, oh God, no.
Running back averages 7 yards a carry. So when you bring down 7 yards a carry, his yards are going to come down, and he is such a big play threat that big play threat is not going to happen on a consistent basis. That running back is going to have to be able to get those in between yards. And I'm not necessarily thinking Achane can do it. And I think Achane being a top 7 running back right now is absolutely insane. Just because the first half of the season was great when he was busting off big plays. 80-yard plays are kind of very fickle like touchdowns. They don't come around very often. So when they happen, it's great when they happen. But what happens when they don't happen and he's only getting 4 yards a carry, 3 yards a carry, you're going to be highly disappointed because he's not going to be the touchdown guy either. So unless he's averaging 7 yards a carry all the time, I have a hard time seeing this guy being a top 10 running back. But I want to like him. I really do. I mean, I got him on a couple teams, and I want to. But I'm not comfortable with Achane being my RB1.
Yeah, I think this year's gonna be he's gonna get more catches, and that's gonna adjust. It's gonna pick up for that. Yeah, there's no way because he had that game span where he had 11.28 yards per carry, 12.63, 13.73 in weeks 3, 4, and 5. Then he was off for a while. Then he came back for a play and was inactive again. And then during the last half, really his yards per game was 4s to 5s. If you look at from 12 to 17 during those spans. So that's realistic is the 5 yards. So if he gets 500 yards rushing, 700 yards, and then but he gets those receiving in PPR leagues, I think that's where he's going to make his hay that way with more of those kind of plays throughout the year. So that's where I'm going. That's where I'm hoping he goes. But I could be totally wrong. And I thought Tyreek was too easy to pick. So I was like,
yeah, Tyreek. I mean, Tyreek is going to be the guy. You're kind of looking for someone that is not there yet. Just so you can look a little smarter when it comes through. But yeah, I'm not 100%. How many catches did he have last year?
27. So he's got some work to do.
How many yards were those?
He still had 7.3 per catch. So that wasn't that his running was better, but that's not spectacular.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be tough. Well, I think once you bring down that yard, I think his efficiency is really going to be hurt this year. It's not going to be the same, and I think that's what's going to hurt him.
Can you believe the dude still had 8 touchdowns? That's insane.
And it all came in like those 3 games, though.
Yeah. So my next guy, I blame you for this guy jumping into one of my guys. It is Jordan Love.
Well, that was one of my guys too, so we'll be able to love this guy together.
So we're gonna love some Jordan Love. See, we don't even tell each other; we keep it a surprise for each other. So let's love on Jordan Love. When this dude got drafted, I thought it was one of the worst draft picks in the history of the NFL. Then again, I also thought Aaron Rodgers was a terrible draft pick. I think basically the new rule is if I see the Packers draft a quarterback in the first round, he's going to be on my team from this point forward. Because Jordan Love, he's going to be one of the next bags of cash. That'll be an interesting contract they're going to do. Are they going to give him Trevor Lawrence money based upon one season where he threw for 4,000 yards? Pretty much everybody throws for 4,000 yards, but he just looked so stinking good. 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And he just carried that offense, and it was just fun to watch. It was But and he's throwing to what 4 wide receiver for threes at this point because our question of this offseason at least 4 times is who's the wide receiver one in Green Bay? God only knows. We'll find out maybe, or it could be nobody. But just seeing the confidence he came in, that the Packers did what the Packers do. They did the quarterback right. They didn't rush him in. Maybe Michael Penix is the next Jordan Love if they let Kirk Cousins play those years out. He learns the system. He learned under Aaron Rodgers, who is a stellar NFL quarterback. Learn from him, jumps right in, and he just killed it this year. There's no way around it, and I don't see him slowing down.
Yeah, he definitely killed it. And I was very impressed. Of course, it started off super strong. I mean, he had those first 2 games where he had six touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So everybody was jumping on the Jordan Love train at that point. And then and looking at it, in the next 6 or 7 games, he kind of struggled a little bit. And then at the last 8 games, he only had 1 interception in the last 8 games, so he absolutely killed it. So what Jordan Love are we going to see? I'd like a little more consistency throughout the whole season. I don't want to see those 7 or 8 games where, he's quarterback 24, quarterback 18, quarterback. I need to see Jordan Love in that top 12 a little more frequently. But yeah, I love Jordan Love. I think we're going to see more of what it was like at the end of the season. Now, he's not going to only have 1 interception in the last 8 games. Interceptions, they're kind of like touchdowns, very fickle. So I think there'll be a little more there. But I think overall, do I see Jordan Love finishing higher than what he did this year? I don't want to say Jordan Love's ceiling was last season, but I think Jordan Love, with the way the offense is right now, I think that might be pretty close to his ceiling. Can he get to 35 touchdowns? Possibly. Can he get to 4,300 yards? I guess possibly. But I think that 4,000 yard season, 30 touchdown is pretty much exactly where I expect Jordan Love to be. And will he be my QB1? I don't know how comfortable I feel with him as my QB1. I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't be like, hey, I'm in a world of hurt here. But I think he's that QB, like that very high QB2 range is where I think he ultimately settles in, which is completely fine. But yeah, I think Jordan Love is definitely on the radar for being, a very reliable fantasy asset. And in the fantasy world, reliability is very, very important.
Reliability, availability, dude. I must be even higher on him than you are currently. And I've got some guys that so he'll probably end up. He's the ECR 10 on Fantasy Pros, and I'm only at the Giants, so I've got to add in yet let Jalen Hurts will be above him. So he might end up there for me. I got him at 6 or 5 at the moment, but there's a couple guys.
I think he did. I mean, he did finish around what he did finish like 5 last year.
I've been trying to pull it up to see where he finished. And the internet is not being nice right now.
5 or 6, 7. He did finish that way. But like I said, I think like those first 2 games and those last 8 games really set his season up. We're talking one interception in those 10 games. And that's where all of his fantasy points came from. And I just don't see it really folding out that way. But if it does, great. I would love to be wrong with that. But I'm still confident that Jordan Love is still finishing, right around that QB 12 range, which I would be totally happy with.
Week 9 through 17, he only had 1 game with less than 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was the 1-to-1, yeah. So I was like 11 out of 17 games, double-digit touchdowns. I mean, you can't beat that. So I stole one of your guys. So you get to go again.
All right, so I'll go here, and I'm gonna go. So I got 2 tight ends. I wanted to find a couple of tight ends that I like, and of course, the one tight end that I really do like it's Kyle Pitts, and I want Kyle Pitts to be successful, right? This is what I want. That his rookie year, he was there. He just didn't get the touchdowns. And then last year, we all know what happened. The team was not good. I think when they bring in Kirk Cousins, I think Drake London being the guy, I don't want to say I really feel like Pitts kind of takes that next step to where he can finish. I'm not going to say he's going to finish in the top 5, but I think he finishes right around that top 5 level. If this guy can just score touchdowns, that's all it's going to take. All he needs is a couple more touchdowns, and it's going to bolt him into that the maybe tier 2 type of tight end level. And with Kirk Cousins being in there and the way he throws the rock around, I find it hard to believe that Kyle Pitts won't be utilized that way.
Do you know that Kyle Pitts' career percentage of receptions based upon targets is 49.4?
Yeah, it hasn't been good.
Terrible. And it'll be this year. We're going to find out. Was it him being not where he was supposed to be on places where the quarterbacks were supposed to get the ball, or was it the quarterbacks just being terrible? I mean, quarterbacks have been terrible for him. He's not had a good quarterback.
I mean, you got to look at it. So if you're blaming Pitts for, if you're blaming Drake London for having bad quarterback play, right? This is why Drake London is not getting the run that he should because of bad quarterback play. Well, why aren't we feeling that same way about Kyle Pitts? He has bad quarterback play. So if we think Drake London can take that next step with Kirk Cousins, I don't see why there's any reason to believe that Kyle Pitts can't take that next step with Kirk Cousins.
I think the reason was Drake London wasn't like the second coming of the greatest thing on the planet Earth. Like Kyle Pitts,
he was still a top 10. He was still a top 10 pick.
But nobody was going, okay, Drake London's Jerry Rice. They're like, Drake London's really good. I love Drake London. Kyle Pitts was supposed to be like Travis Kelce with super athletic ability and the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Maybe, but how long did it take Travis Kelce to perform? I mean,
it's hurt too.
I mean, Travis Kelce's first 4 years, I mean, it wasn't the Travis Kelce that we know now.
No, but his first year he was hurt, and then he had 2 years less than 1,000, and from that point on he went 1,000 yards. So I don't know. I'm not Kyle Pitts. I have one place, and I have hopes for Kyle Pitts.
I mean, if we're looking at
where you feel about Achane is how I feel about Kyle Pitts.
If we're looking at 1,000-yard seasons, I mean, Kyle Pitts did that as a rookie.
Yeah, and then what did he? Then look at the second season; he had 600 and some odd yards.
Yeah, but Desmond
356 yards the second season in 10 games. Then he had 667 yards last year. So he dropped off face of the earth. Like I mean, the good news is he should get 4 touchdowns this year because he got 1, 2, then 3. So this should be 4.
Yeah, so I feel like if Drake London can improve with Kirk Cousins, I don't see the same philosophy can't go with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you know his nickname is the Unicorn. Apparently,
everybody's nickname is the Unicorn. It's the most overused. It's the most overused nickname in sports,
except for Daniel Jones. He has the most hilarious nickname ever, other than Danny Dimes. You got to go to Fantasy Pro Football Folk reference if you want to laugh at that one. Do you want to throw out your second tight end, or do you want me to keep on rolling with him?
I'll go with another tight end. I'm going to go with Ben Sinnott, the rookie out from the Washington Commanders. So it's kind of an overhaul there in Washington. They released, of course, they got rid of their owner. They brought in all new coaching, brought in a brand new quarterback. And it seems like when you have a scrambling quarterback, who's usually their best friend, right, is a tight end. So with the Commanders getting rid of Logan Thomas, Logan Thomas was a very effective tight end when he played. He was often injured. So I think with Benson, I know he's a tight end, and it doesn't always work out with tight ends in their first year, but I think he will get plenty of opportunity to slide in as like a type of security blanket because he's a great receiver, and you got the 2 good receivers on the outside. I feel like the middle of the field is going to be open. Jaden Daniels can scramble a lot, and when he scrambles, the tight end can move because he's got great agility as well. I'm not saying Ben Sinnott is going to be a top 5, top 8 tight end, but I think you're going to see a very productive tight end. I think you'll definitely be able to use Sinnott throughout the whole season in your fantasy league.
I am intrigued by this guy. He's rising up draft boards because he's in a great situation.
Yeah,
he's going to learn from Zach Ertz. I mean, what's better than that? I mean, it's.
I forgot about him.
Zach Ertz is one of the goats. The X factor really is Jaden Daniels. Is Jaden Daniels going to get hit really quick and you're going to have nobody to throw to him, or is he going to have time? Is he going to get to the tight end? Is he going to be like I like Terry McLaurin? He's a big question mark. I like the landing spot. I agree with you on all those points of young quarterback, young tight end. They're going to grow together, so the pains will suffer together. So dynasty, I love it. This year, he's streaming possibly is where he would have to be for me.
Luckily for tight ends, if you got a bad line, The tight end is usually going to be the first guy you're going to look at because he's going to be the first guy that gets open. It's usually going to take your receivers a second longer because they're running a little deeper down the field. Then Sanat's going to be working that intermediate range, 5 to 15-yard range. Turn around, hey, I got 2 seconds to throw, turn around, and I'll get you the ball. So even if they got a bad line, I think there's still a chance there. And like I said, with Ertz there, I did forget about Ertz. Ertz might
But he's still, what is he, 30?
in the season, but he's been injured the last 2 years. He hasn't played a whole lot.
Not too
and I think it just ultimately takes over the tight end spot.
Yeah, Zach Ertz will be 34 by the end of the season. He turns 34 in November. So, I think he's more of a security blanket. I'm not too worried about him for Sanaa. It's just a matter of what Washington does this year with all the new everything in the world. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, I took out. I had an extra guy. I couldn't figure who to throw in there, but you throw in all the tight end love. I was like, everybody knows I love Laporta. I'm not going to add him this year. I'm not going to, because I do think there will be positive regression for Laporta because he was just too good that I think he's gonna slip back. I still have him. He might be. No, he's not he's not my tight end one, but he's in that top tier. But I was like, I'll throw him out. You gave some tight end love, and it makes me happy. It makes my heart is full this Father's Day. So I've got one of the greatest receivers of all time, and then one of the greatest question marks of all time will be my next two guys. And it's one because he's just on my team now. Mike Evans. I think right now Mike Evans could send his name into the Hall of Fame. They don't even have to wait 6 weeks for this to happen. I mean, isn't it? I'm correct that he is the only guy that's had a streak of 1,000-yard seasons just in his career to start at this point.
Yep.
His lowest output was in 2017. He barely did it. He had 1,001 yards. But through all those years, he had Tom Brady a couple years. He had a bunch of other jokers. Jameis Winston. He had Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, last year he had the greatest quarterback he's ever had thrown to him in Baker Mayfield. I say tongue in cheek because Tom Brady was there, but Baker and him connected.
You didn't have to say that because everybody.
Hey, Baker. Everybody knows I should put Baker on this list. Maybe I have to change that. I love some Baker, but Baker loved Mike Evans. Mike Evans, last year he only had 79 receptions, but he had 13 touchdowns, 1,255 yards. And he got a good old bag. He was another bag of cash guy. He got a bag of cash in his 31. Is he 31? He'll be 30. He'll be 31 by the season start. He's an August birthday. So in his 31 season, they still see him as a viable option. Whereas we look at Keenan Allen like, he's coming down. Everybody's like, Mike Evans, they gave him enough money saying that the next 2 years, we think you're going to do what you did. Now, is he going to get 12, 55, and 13? Probably not. Is he going to get maybe 1,100 and 8 to 10? Probably. And do that, pick up some of the young guys. It's great for the Bucs. Not as great for us fantasy, but dude is still a stud. He is a Hall of Famer, first ballot, no doubt about it. And it took me about 9 years to get on the Mike Evans train, so I'm going to ride it this year. So he's going to fall in his face.
Yeah, he's definitely legit. And I think he's one of those guys that if you're a contender, that you could probably, I don't want to say getting cheap, but you can get him cheaper, for some of those lower teams that, are trying to rebuild. If you're trying to rebuild, obviously you don't want Mike Evans on your team. You'll take a draft pick or a younger player that it really hasn't produced. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to win, I think Mike Evans is probably the way to go here. And I mean, you can't say he's going to fail because the guy hasn't failed yet. So until he shows signs of falling off or signs of failing, you've got to continue to ride him. And Baker loves him. Baker loves throwing deep to him. He's always open when he's running down the field deep. So, I mean, I don't think much is going to change in that offense. So hopefully Chris Godwin performs a little better than he did last year. But, yeah, I think Mike Evans is a very, very safe pick here.
And he's got a great, his story will bring tears to your eyes. Remember when he came in with Johnny Manziel? They were telling some of the Mike Evans his life was just terrible and but it's just a power. It's an awesome story to hear. But I'm rooting for Mike Evans. Okay, my next guy, I don't know why I put him on here. This is my. I can guarantee you this won't be my number one. So if you're voting, just eliminate this immediately. But I think people are underestimating, and I think a total buy now is the knucklehead of all morons from this offseason. I didn't like going in, but he proved me wrong. Rashee Rice. Patrick Mahomes liked him a lot. Patrick Mahomes has got older Kelsey, who they say they're going to get less to. They're going to give the ball less to getting ready for the playoffs. Kelsey says he wants the ball. Hollywood Brown is the other receiver. I forget. There's some other guys in there that we've heard of, but he loved Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice was getting some beautiful little slot passes right into the end zone, and as a rookie, he flirted with 1,000 yards and had 7 touchdowns, and apparently he's in shorts and a t-shirt, but they're connecting really well, and he's looking amazing in OTAs. Yeah, it's shorts and a t-shirt, but still, he came to OTAs, which ticked off the real world. But on the team, they're like, "Hey, you're not walling." He owned up to it. He's gonna get suspended. So obviously, he could get suspended 4 games because he didn't get convicted, and the photographer I think wants to drop the charges anyway. So he's got the knucklehead suspension, which is 4 to 6 games, and then he's going to play the rest of the season and be Patrick Mahomes' favorite target if he picks up where he left off last year. And I think it's year 2. He's going to be 24. He's got years to go. So I think for the last half of the season, if you can get him on the cheap or draft him in like the last round of your draft, or you don't think you'll get him? I got him for a sack of potatoes because people are done with him. But are we past that level where they're done with him because it's moving on?
You got him cheap before everybody started to kind of jump back on it a little bit. That with the fact that, like you mentioned earlier, the photographer is not going to be pressing charges. He might get suspended, the 4 games, but I think at this point that the price is only going to get higher now, especially since he looks so good in shorts and shirts. Yeah. Since he looks so good, but then they all look good. But I mean, since that's all people need to hear at this time is that somebody is looking good, and then their fantasy value is automatically going to rise up. So I don't see you being able to get Rashee Rice at this point for very cheap. I think people are kind of come around to it. But I like Rashee Rice if he's on the field. I mean,
it's a catch.
But he's going to be on the field. All right. So it just depends on when the suspension comes. But yeah, if you want him, I think he's a very safe choice. I think like Mahomes likes him. I think Mahomes has that I don't know what word I'm looking for. That word. With him, so he knows how he runs, he knows what he likes, and he's a good receiver. He proved it last year as a rookie, and if a rookie can do what they did last year in that offense, I think you can only go up from there. So yeah, I mean, I like Rashee Rice, and the fact that he's a big dummy, yes. It does hurt a little bit, but hopefully you would think that after the first 2 instances of being a great big giant dummy, you would hope you learn your lesson. Now, does he learn his lesson? I feel like that's where people are kind of afraid, and a young guy with that much money, some of them don't learn their lesson. So we'll have to, it's kind of like a wait and see.
That's how I got some Tyreek Hill shares, because everybody's scared of him doing something knucklehead. I mean, maybe he'll just go Tyreek's route and have about 32 kids. Who knows where he goes? But I mean,
if you want 32 kids and pay a bunch of child support, go right ahead, man.
Go for it, Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp, what is it? The cornerback. Was it Cromartie?
Cromartie has a bunch of kids. The quarterback for the Chargers?
Phil Rivers. But those are all hit. They're with one person. Those 3 guys. They got them all over. They got them all over the world. So it's a different kind of beast for those guys. You want to do your last guy? Or you want me to do my last guy?
I'll bring in my last guy. It was just a guy that I just recently acquired within the last 3 days. I really like this guy coming out of college. He was one of my favorite guys coming out of college. And that's George Pickens with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So their quarterback play last year, not the greatest, but Pickens still had his games. The course of the team wasn't great. Then coming into this year with Mike Tomlin, settling with a 3-year extension, so everything's going to be pretty much staying the same. I know Russell Wilson wasn't great, but I still think he's an upgrade over what they had last year. Justin Fields wasn't great, but I mean, even if Justin Fields, he still provided DJ Moore with the best season that he's ever had. So with George Pickens being the outright number 1 there in Pittsburgh, and I listened to a couple guys that follow the Pittsburgh team quite a bit, and they seem to be very high on him. They say he looks really good in OTAs in his shorts and shirts. So if we're looking at Rashee Rice going that direction, Pickens being the number one guy and probably a much improved offense. I think the yards are there. The yards are there. I think he had 1,100 yards. I think that's what his number were. But I think he only had the 5 touchdowns. I think the touchdowns are going to have to come up, right? So he's got to be that big play touchdown guy. And I think it's there, and I think it will happen. But sitting here talking about it, Pickens might actually be my favorite right now out of all these guys that we've talked about.
Well, it's because he's your new. I read the trade that you did backwards. I thought you gave away Pickens, so you got Pickens, A.D. Mitchell, and Malachi Corley.
Yeah,
and you gave away a bunch of dudes and some draft picks.
I gave up my first, second, and third pick for next year, and then the 3 guys that I gave up was just because he was giving me 3 guys. I had to give away.
I mean,
had to give away.
Bell might have been the curious one, but he gave a bunch of bodies. But yeah, so you gave a lot of picks for those guys. That's not too bad. I don't think it's George. Oh, I love some George Pickens. He's one of those guys that I love, but he scares me because I see a lot of early OBJ. So if he stays healthy, he won't do that for me. But George Pickens is known for that. I mean, he had a great year, but he's that like catch guy. So you're like, oh yeah, he did that one hand, like he did that catch, and then he started to disappear, and then he just, it's so I'm with you in my love for George Pickens. I've got one share in one league, in our one league, but. Yeah, I think, and I'm probably higher on the Pittsburgh passing game than most people are, but I mean, if he's got to be more consistent. That's what he's got. I mean, he had to get those yards last year: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games over 100 yards, and 1 in 80, and the rest of them are below that. So he's got to be more consistent. And I think with Russell Wilson, even with Justin Fields, I mean, Roman Wilson's going to be the other receiver. With the wide receiver, the receivers aren't anything to write home about.
Yes, so I mean, I think he had like 80 some targets in his rookie year. I think it was, and then he jumped up to 106 targets last year. So the increase in targets is there, and that was with Deontay Johnson, who's more of a target hog. So I think if Pickens is able to get up into that 130, 140-ish range with the targets, I think it's kind of all going to fall into place because he's a big play guy. So the yards are going to be there. I'm saying I'm not worried about the yards. It's just whether or not they can get in the how good is that offense going to be able to score points and get him into touchdowns, get him into the end zone.
Cortland Sutton last year was Russell Wilson's dude. He had 10 touchdowns. Like, if he got close to the end zone, he threw it to Cortland Sutton. He didn't have as many yards. That was the difference.
I mean, if we're looking at 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, I mean that's a
6, 7.
That's a really good season. I would gladly pay a first round pick for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yeah. I can't argue. I like some George Pickens, and I'm ending on some Chalk, a guy I love. He was my baby last year. You know where my heart was last year. People won't trade with me rookie picks because they don't want me to pull another Puka Nacua out of my butt. But I love me some Puka. He had the season of his life his first year. I don't think he might go up on touchdowns and go down yards to balance out points, but you can't expect most guys in their career won't have 105 reception, 1486, and 6 touchdowns in multiple seasons. Usually not even in one season. If you look at Mike Evans' season, he doesn't even have this. He's like low thousands every year, mid to low thousands, but more touchdowns. But Puka came out on fire, and we all thought, oh gosh, here comes Cooper Kupp coming back in. And Puka he had that one game, that 1 or 2 games where he just sort of slowed down when Cooper came in, but then just as everybody was like, oh no, there he goes. He had basically 4 duds and 5 duds, and then everything else was fairly good this year, which isn't too bad for a rookie receiver. I mean, he came out of the gates on fire for the first month and a half or so of the season. And then Cooper came, and he still managed with Cooper in there. The targets did go down, but Cooper's a year older, Stafford. But you balance those 2 guys out, you get a balanced attack with Kyren Williams. They love to run with him. I don't think he is the hardest guy for me to rank. Like, honestly, last year I think Puka was in the top 6 or 7 probably. But I don't think he can be that high. But I just love the dude because his work ethic is stellar. He's on a good passing team. Dynasty, if you got him, I hate to say it, he's probably a sell because Matt Stafford's going to go and you don't know what's next. But I love Puka Nakua just because it makes me feel smart.
Let's be honest, you don't like Puka Nacua because of his work ethic. You like Puka Nacua because you was able to draft him in a draft and he performed well.
Oh, he was one of my targets though. Like I had a draft where I said with my brother-in-law, I knew nobody wanted him, and I liked what I've been seeing at him going in, and he's like, trade me this pick. And it was literally, I think it might have been the last pick of the draft. I knew where Puka was falling. And that was literally the guy I wanted. Like, he was a target of mine last year. I didn't expect this, but I expected him to be I thought maybe in a couple of years, kind of like how Cooper Kupp sort of worked his way up. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously nobody expected this. He performed really well. But I mean, like you said, the Rams are getting older, especially at the key spot in quarterback. Matthew Stafford's always had injury concerns. Is 160 targets viable every year for Puka Nacua? I don't know. This is the scary thing. But if Stafford's playing, he likes to sling it. So I mean, the ball is going to go all over the place. But like I said, like you said, I think he probably is more of a sell than he would be a buy, because if you're trying to buy him, you just have to pay an arm and a leg for him. So yeah, it's like I don't know what to think of Puka Nacua. I don't think he can be a top 6. I don't think he's a top 6 receiver or a top 7 receiver. I don't think he's that good. Does he fall in like more of like the 12 to 15, 12 to 16 range? I think that's probably where he ends up settling. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I like the guy. It's just hard for me to trust in the guy.
Yeah, currently he's late single digits, and he could move farther down because I am at the Giants only as I'm ranking him. So, but yeah, he's so hard. I mean, Stafford's going to be 30. This is his year 36 season. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played to 40, and Stafford, you also got to think he had the injury season. He's basically 1, 2, 3, 4 of his seasons are a wash. So does that save him something towards the end, or does that mean the arthritis builds up? We'll see. We'll see how it pans out. But I mean, yeah, he likes to sling it, and that's where it goes. So here we go. Our guys from this week. Oh, you got a guy. Who'd you add there at the end? I didn't write it down.
Pickens.
Pickens, thank you. Wow. Okay, so this week I added Achane Love, Evans, Rashee Rice, and Puka. You added JJ Wang added Benson, Love, Pitts, Sino. What's his name? Sino?
I think I don't know.
I've heard it said like 14 different ways. I think I need to just I'll hit up my boy up in DC and see what he says. And Pickens. So I'll put a poll up and see who you think each of us is going to pick for our person of the year. And next week we will start by announcing our top guy. Who is that guy that we just are rooting for? It's almost like we're rooting for him to be good. We think he's going to be good.
I'm not going to lie. I really want my top guy to be Tyrone Tracy. I had a real hard time.
So do I. I love Tyrone Tracy.
I had a real hard time not putting him on this list, but he's just not there yet. But I can see me picking one of these guys, and then by the time the season starts, it's just all null and void because Tyrone Tracy is going to be my guy. I can just see it happening.
I am with you. I love Tyrone Tracy. I had another draft this year, and I was like, please wait. Please. And he landed right with me. I had one pick. That was the guy I wanted, and I'll be daggone. If I didn't walk away with Tyrone Tracy, I was happy. And I'm starting to grow a little bit on Marshawn Lloyd, too. I don't think he'll be as big as Tyrone Tracy, but I'm hearing some good things with
They say he's looking really good in shorts and shirts right now. So
I know. That's pretty amazing. So give us
do it. He does look really good in shorts and shirts. I'm not going to lie.
Rookie season's still going because we have some leagues. I'm dragging my butt in one, and some of our leagues we're not ready yet. So yeah, we got some more drafts to do and get ready for regular drafts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with waiting a little longer for the rookie drafts. I mean, especially if you're in a lot of leagues. I mean, I don't see one or two here, one or two there, and then maybe one or two, before the redraft season sneaks. Just so you can
not August 31st, Rich.
I mean, I feel like August 31st is kind of like the cutoff point. Well, no, August
season starts.
Oh, never mind. That's way too late. I'm thinking July. I think like July 31st.
Yeah, my latest usually ends by then.
For rookie drafts, because that's when the redrafts really start picking up.
Yeah, do them before people get hurt because what's going to happen? It'll change everything, and you're looking for a career, not a year. Whereas, like Jonathan Brooks, he might be on the pup by then. You'll get Jonathan Brooks in the 4th round because the knuckleheads in your league might go, "Oh, he's got no value." Yes, he does. He's just going to miss 6 games, and then he's going to come out and just. I mean, isn't that? I mean, it's like Gurley that first year. He didn't play, fell, and then he didn't play. But
he was the man for 3 years and then completely disappeared again. So
yeah. So give us some wisdom. Let's get out of here. We've kept him busy for a while.
Yeah. So words of wisdom. I'm going to talk on some wrestling here real quick. They had another pay-per-view last night, Clash of Castle. I'm not sure if you was able to check it out. And I'm fully aware that wrestling is predetermined, but these guys are still elite, again, women, elite athletes. But one of these guys, Damian Priest, had a nasty spill coming off the ropes. It looked awful. I mean, you can tell that. Yeah, oh yeah. You can tell that he was struggling for the rest of the match because usually if it's a fake injury, they'll hold it here and there and then they'll disappear. But this guy was constantly going back to this injury, and it made the match I feel like a whole lot better. But yeah, the fact that he took that nasty spill, acted like nothing happened, and then continued to perform at the highest level. Think what you want about wrestling. These guys are still premier athletes in the grand scheme of things. So as always, trust yourself and trust the process.